I would start off the conversation by talking about a article that showed up on Medium about promoting NFT projects with artist buying circles. And so the idea is
Oh,
that
yeah,
I wanted
yeah.
I wanted to hear your thoughts about that. I figured, Adrian, you would have some strong thoughts about that. But let's hear what you think about that. First, tell us what it is, and then why you think what you do.
Okay, so in a long, long time ago, when the internet was first invented, there were people who were called influencers. And those influencers would promote projects and say, wow, look at what I just discovered. This is just the best shampoo on earth. And people would buy it through that influencer's special coded link. And that influencer would make mailbox money. And life was good. And then the FTC stepped in and said, you have to disclose that you're being paid for this advertisement. So very difficult on Twitter with 120 characters, but at the very least we had to do hashtag ad. So you have to disclose when you have a financial relationship with the transaction with which you're promoting, and it has to be substantive and it has to be obvious. So in these little buying circles, and this is my whole thing when it comes to market making and all of these other things where they're like, no, it's legal. I'm like, no, pretty sure market making is exactly the same as market manipulation, which is actually not legal. So pretty sure we have a little gray area there that at some point somebody's going to go to jail, and that'll clear that up. So the same thing is happening with these artist circles. I didn't even read the article, but man, can you tell? This is a hot spot for me. So people fake shit all the time. It bugs me like you would not believe. I am all about organic. I am all about authentic, clear, transparent. If your stuff rocks like crypto pills, like Scott realizes now, because like, look at that crypto pill. Crypto pill is fabulous, right? Nobody needs to shill crypto pills. There's no affiliate program. There's no nothing, right? So when I'm designing a lot of these projects, I'm including an affiliate program, but in there is this is the language that you have to use. There's a whole training program, because this is how Floyd Mayweather got in trouble in 2017 for an ICO that he was being compensated to promote, that he didn't tell anybody he was being compensated to promote, that also ended up not being a registered, it was a unregistered security, so he got in trouble for that and got slapped around a little bit. So the law regarding promotion, right, is very clear, and it's been around for a long time, but people ignore it thinking this is a new market. It doesn't apply. It does apply. It absolutely does apply. Okay, I'm off my pulpit now. Did you like my story?
That was great, Adrian. I had a feeling you would have a strong feeling about that. And
Yes.
and I think this really brings us to a question that a lot of people have about NFTs, and that is, and I know that we've discussed this before, but we have some new people in the room, and I want to talk about it again, which is, how do you know whether the interest in the NFT is organic or if people are bidding up their own stuff?
Anybody else want that? There's a way to track it. So
Okay.
for $40, and here's the thing, there's a difference between artificial inflation and advertising, right? So there are
Uh-oh.
and they'll promote you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get, a million people to see you and probably 2,000 or 3,000 likes, right?
Right.
That's not illegal. That's advertising, right?
You, now you cut out a little bit. Did you say
Oh,
you can
sorry.
get influencers, or how do you do that? I'm sorry.
Oh, you just go look at the big NFT accounts, and I
Yeah.
don't remember which ones they are, but all you have to do, here's how you figure it out. You put NFT artist in your bio, or NFT collector, or just NFT. I swear, because I say NFT designer and influencer, so I don't even have artist or collector in there. Your DMs will flood with people shilling. This is how you know a project is being artificially inflated. You will get brand new Instagram accounts DMing thousands of people until they get suspended about a new project, and it's all the same formula and the same format. So those projects are being shilled. those are probably pump and dumps. So you don't ever want to use scammy marketing tactics in your own projects, and you want to learn how to recognize them in other people's projects. So that's the key. That's the key piece. And then if there's a buying circle, what you can do is you can look at who owns what, because it will tell you who's holding what. Like if you go to OpenSea, you can see everything that I'm holding. It just shows you everything in my wallet. So then what you can do is you can cross-check, okay, take this one piece, who's holding that? Now look at what they're holding. Are you all holding each other's stuff? That's a buying circle.
I see. I see.
And
Scott, did you have any?
there were
Oh, go
also
ahead.
drops that I'm aware of that were made to top tier NFT buyers by some of these scammy projects, and they were sort of dropping them into their wallets. And so
Yes.
you have to watch for those. Yeah.
Airdrops. So now that was the other thing, was I was invited into a project which shall remain nameless because it's actually turning itself around and not quite so scammy, but brought in all the internet marketers and was going to give us all 50 NFTs. 50 that were, aiming to be CryptoPunks. So that would have been a $50 million compensation. But the way that it was being done, I was like, that's like that. No. So I just kind of held off and watched because it was an education. So that's the other way that people are doing it, is they're like, when the guy gave me the llama, I mean, I talked about it all the time. I told everybody. I was very clear. I wasn't selling the llamas. I was telling them how much I loved it because it was literally my morning meditation. I still have it. I've just been so busy. I should go back to doing my morning meditation with my llama because she makes me so happy. You got to go see it. It's so cute.
Cool. Welcome, Carlos. Can you introduce yourself? Oh, I don't know if he heard me. All right. Well, one of the other questions that I wanted to, oh, there he is. Go ahead, Carlos.
Hey Jeanette, how's it going? Sorry everyone, just jumping in over from checking out the LA Blockchain Summit today. Uh, Thanks for everybody joining. My name is Carlos Rodriguez. I'm an executive conference producer. I produce conferences within the fintech as well as IT, blockchain, anti-aging space in multiple verticals. I am an avid NFT investor. I'm really excited to be here and share my experience.
Thanks, Carlos. So, another question that I wanted to ask the group, and before I do that, I want to welcome anybody who's in the audience. If you have a question, please raise your hand, hop up here. Do not wait for an invite. We want to hear your questions. But in the meantime, I wanted to ask the group, are there organizations or are there groups of people who have a social interest or some kind of collected
You're
interest?
breaking up.
Oh, sorry. Are there groups that are not really good for NFTs? Or are there groups that shouldn't consider building an NFT?
It does not compute. An NFT can be any.
Everybody should consider not building an NFT.
It depends on what you mean. Should any group not do a generative art project? Probably. I could think of several, but they're gross and NC-17. But no, I mean, like, if you look at, like, there's a great project right now. I mean, let me just tell you, NFTs are so freaking empowering. It's ridiculous. And this is a little, but I won't be descriptive. So Hot Drops is a new project by a girl named Ashley. She's a former adult performer, and OnlyFans just kicked all of their adult performers to the curb. That's 90% of their audience and their revenue. And they decided to go PG-13. And so all of these adult performers, not only was OnlyFans a way that they were making their money, like a lot of them, especially retired ones, they never got royalties for anything. So now Hot Drops is giving them an opportunity to use NFTs to actually create content for their audience that clearly wants it. And as those things are traded on the secondary market as well as traded in the exchange on Hot Drops, they're able to earn royalties ongoing for life. So, that's an industry that I normally consider when I look at what new tech is coming. They're usually first. I mean, they were the first to do video downloads, streaming, everything, always first, and yet they weren't first to NFTs. I was very shocked and surprised about that. But if you like adult content, go check out Hot Drops. This is not a paid advertisement. I'm just a super fan. I introduced her to Michael Turpin. She did a pitch, and it was like watching a mini session in Shark Tank, and she freaking rocked it. It was one of the best pitches I've ever seen, and she had all her numbers and everything. She's a phenomenal CEO. And then the Winklevoss twins are like literally fighting with Turpin on who's going to give her money. It's hilarious.
That's awesome, Adrian. But Scott, I'm guessing you have an alternate viewpoint, so I want to give you a chance to air your thoughts.
So I actually am, as much as I love the crypto world and NFTs and how powerful they are, they're absolutely not ready for enterprise adoption. And so, if we're talking about the current existing use cases where people use wallets and, things like that, if you want to promote those kind of projects, 100% yes. If you're talking about, representing data objects and rights management and copyrights and things, we haven't worked out all the kinks yet. So you should absolutely think about it. And then you should absolutely figure out how hard it is to finish building your ecosystem. Because there are a lot of really big rocks in enterprise America for acceptance of this. Some are legal. Most are technical cross traditional infrastructure adoption. So my company is working on some of those traditional enterprise problems. If your infrastructure that you're using has been installed for 30 years, it probably can't support crypto or NFTs or anything. So how do you do that? You got to get a gateway. You got to what? How do you do this? And so that's what I mean. This is not blockchain all the things turning into NFT all the things. That's not how this works here. You have to think about what value do I get by turning on this kind of thing to bring in that community to then help me raise money, sell my art, allow my token to do, there's reasons why you do this. You don't just do it. And I think that's a
But
really
I can
fair
I
conversation to
can't
have.
agree more with you, Scott. I think what I'm seeing with NFTs, even unlike with ICOs, in the 2017, 2018 time range, and I'm starting to compare these two groups more and more every day, because by 2018, in October of 2018, there was about 20 billion invested in ICOs. And within literally like a year and a half period before the middle of 2017, there was hardly any money in ICOs. So that's kind of like the aggregate number I think of. We're about to hit 20 billion in sort of money flowing into NFTs this year. And I would say that there are really no projects in my mind, including the Bored Apes, which have done better than everyone else, that actually have a big picture view of strategy of why are they raising all this money, why are they creating this community, and how are they going to go about monetizing and growing the community and actually growing the value of NFTs in that community. I've seen none yet. And I agree with you. That's like a step one of the 12-step process here.
Well,
Okay.
you know how I'm going to feel about that, Mariana. So, just to play devil's advocate here, I do feel actually there's some very strong use cases currently going on underway. Perfect example is Marvel launched with Vivi. That's a huge partnership. NBA Top Shot, is another perfect example that's been holding very strong and now has some very strong ties into NBA. And actually, I can't talk about what they're doing, but long story short, there's some amazing things that are going to be tied in. So there are some very heavy players in the space, and I think in the entertainment space, we're going to see them more and more. Disney just signed, their first NFT launch. Hasbro also did theirs. So there are some major players from the enterprise space. I think that there has to be kind of a differentiation in between, the DeFi projects, and I totally agree with you guys 100%. I do see this kind of as a similar as the ICOs. So it's going to be very interesting, but I definitely see a huge growth in the enterprise space as well as heavy investments from players that you wouldn't expect that have licensed, as well as the U.S.
Yeah.
Postal Service.
I know! No, that's what I was going to say! I was literally going to say the oldest thing in the world. The U.S. Postal Service just partnered with Vivi and is doing drops for postage stamps for Day of the Dead. And I'm so excited because it's really cool. And the Postal Service has, everybody, and now they're doing NFTs. So now at least mainstream consumers would know. But also, you got to keep in mind that Nevada has been putting marriage licenses into NFTs for years now. Wyoming does title. They have a whole title company, and they're doing titles, property titles on NFTs. And just when you talk about use cases, right, and Bored Apes, this is the whole thing that I do my NFT planner on when I'm talking to these celebrities about building their communities and moving their audience off of social media platforms where they can be deplatformed and they don't have direct communication with their audience, and moving them into a private community. And what we're doing with Foxy's, which is for my Crypto Vixens nonprofit, we're doing a generative drop. You buy those blind, you get what you get because you don't know, you're just buying one, and then they get revealed later. And then we're launching a breeding program like CryptoKitties, and then they breed them, and every time they breed them, it kicks off a scholarship for a girl for our courseware projects that teach blockchain to girls to get more women and everybody. There's also some entrepreneurial ones in there for people who aren't technical that want to get into blockchain to understand how to integrate it into enterprise. But blockchain, it solves so many things. And when you think about it, digital ID really is NFT, right? Your NFT is your digital ID. It does sit in a wallet, and digital ID does solve a ton of issues that we currently have going on. And the best part about that is it means full transparency, no more bots, no more scammers, no more fake comments, fake reviews, all those things. I think there are some great use cases for enterprise. But what I see is the bridge right now, Scott, is not that those enterprise operations like the post office would never have been able to integrate that into their own thing and do it on their own. They're partnering with people who actually can, and they're doing it as a promotional thing. And as they see the success and they raise the money, I do think they're going to upgrade their infrastructure. What I really want to see is this digital ID, which you all know, going to get on my pulpit. I would like every single person who works in every single voting thing to log in with their own unique ID instead of sharing one ID. So then you know who's doing what, and it's on the blockchain, and there's trackable, traceable audit trails. But if every single voting place was run by the 150-year-old woman who runs mine, I've never waited in line more than 5 minutes. Usually it's 2. That's a well-oiled machine, but that's not everywhere.
All right, so I'm going to step back for a second. I think we're talking about apples and oranges here. So every large company that Carlos mentioned, from the Disneys of the world, etc., they are all doing what I would think of as marketing initiatives with NFTs, and there's plenty of those. And if you're not thinking about a marketing initiative with NFTs, think about it right now. So 100% on board. Post office as well. But if you look at, I think what some of the Scott's, comments were about is the supply chain management side of this, which is very hard to implement. That hasn't really kind of rolled out, and every enterprise has to think through it and needs a strategy for that. And then finally, what I'm talking about, Adrian, I saw your plans, your marketing plans for you shared with me your class, and I think it's brilliant. And it's definitely very strategic. But what I was commenting on were the drops that were basically done, by Pudgy Penguins or the Famed Lady Club, which is connected to everybody in NFT space. I love that project. All of those projects need to have some sort of a strategy that's going to create a business that can create a unicorn out of this project and not just an NFT drop kind of forever.
Yes, otherwise it's Beanie Babies or tulips. And
yeah, exactly.
Couldn't agree more.
But that's what they're thinking, is they're thinking fast money cash grab, and they're not thinking long term, which is the whole reason why not only are we doing a drop, a generative drop, we're doing the breeding engine so it keeps going on forever and ever and ever, because the goal is to get 1 million girls educated in blockchain. And that's the actual business model, because once we get these founders trained up, then the actual revenue model is the deal flow.
And that really is like a world-changing proposition, right? Because in order to, change the inequalities, you actually have to provide access to capital and resources, and your NFT drop is doing both. So I guess that's awesome.
Exactly, yeah. But that's what I normally talk to, like with the musicians. Okay, so art is obviously a easy one, right? And movies, obviously easy one, especially Marvel. Like that's like a no-brainer. They can literally mint and come up with NFT ideas for eternity. They've got so much content. Musicians, what they need, right, for their business model to integrate with NFTs, what they really need are bodies. They need audience, right? They need fans. And so creating in the metaverse this ability to have concerts and sell tickets, right? Because we've been doing NFTs for tickets since 2017. We started in South by Southwest. So tickets is a normal thing. The Mavericks are doing that. You know, Mark Cuban's doing that for seat tickets for his basketball team. But the ticket piece of it, the key is that when you buy this NFT, you know, you put them into your community, in your club, you have the ability to push notify them. When you have a concert coming up, Dallas, 50 miles from Dallas, you push notify all those people to sell your tickets even before American Express Black Card holders. That's a benefit for being in the community and holding that NFT. And then it gives you the ability to get good seats before everybody else. That's a benefit to the community, but selling out those seats quicker is a benefit to the musician. So that's their revenue play, right? And then the different merch tables and then 3D metaverse merch that they can wear in the metaverse to the concert and wear their VIP exclusive 1 of 10 t-shirt. Like, there's all this different way to get people excited. But I think the issue is that you've got these people who have, like, I worked at the city planning office in San Rafael when I was 20 years old, and I moved them from typewriters to Macintosh. I have never, and I was so young, I gave them free phone calls for life. And this one lady, Fern, who was probably 60 when I taught her, worked there till she was 70. For 10 years, that girl kept calling me and asking me the same question, like every year when she had to do this one particular thing. So it's really hard to get institutions, but I think more like, you know, very old institutions to change their ways. It's even hard to upgrade them to any kind of new system. So that will be a challenge, but there's no reason why you can't have, why you can't integrate some kind of blockchain audit trail or some kind of NFT program, you know, into anything. I don't feel like I'm limited in coming up with ideas for anybody, but I do see that a lot of big enterprises are going to have transition issues like Scott.
Yeah, I think it's really, interesting as well what Mariana brought up. I think the lack of strategy for a lot of these is going to play in the long term for a lot of these, instant buzz. I would say NFTs or drops that really just created, marketing ploys, but really have no really validity into their, 3 year or 5 year strategies that they've developed. I always look for things with white papers. So I just want to suggest to the audience, always look for, if you are looking for a project, look into the white paper. Also see who the founders are associated with it, just since we want to give some good tips to the audience here. Make sure that you look into who the people that are currently investing into it are as well. Don't just look at their Twitter followings or Discord drops, and as well as you can look at OpenSea rankings. That's also a really helpful tool that I know Adrian mentions. So just make sure that you guys are looking into these projects really deeply. And Scott has, 100%, he's 100% right. It's not the majority of enterprises that are jumping in. I just see that there is a growth trajectory there.
If they have a
Very
strategy.
interesting about this. I mean, our premise when we started Infiom was to help the Fortune 500 world kind of onboard into crypto. And this was, mid 2019 when nobody really wanted to onboard into crypto. And now I'm looking at the tsunami of NFTs, DeFi, and DAO concepts that are just changing the world as we know it. And back then, we had a statistic that over half of the Fortune 500 companies will not be on the list within 10 years. And I think that's accelerated further in 2 years. And I see why. So if you're a large company that, Carlos mentioned and Scott mentioned, this is not a joke. This is not about, oh, okay, let me think through my NFT strategy. Maybe I'll buy a CryptoPunk. Maybe I'll do a marketing strategy. Maybe I'll think about some supply chain management, changes. This is like do or die in the next 5 years. And I don't think, Meta, Facebook becoming Meta, this is not by accident. They're embracing the crypto space in a way that they have to survive. There are a bunch of other companies that need to think through this really quickly and create really cohesive strategies as their business is going to change overnight. And that's what we're seeing. And it's sped up from, 2019 by a wide margin.
Can we talk about Meta for a minute?
Yes,
Before we
let's
go
do.
there, Adrienne, let's refresh the room and say welcome. You are here talking. We are talking about NFTs, DeFi, and DAOs, and this is presented by the Infiom network. We have these clubhouses every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and then on Wednesdays, alternate Wednesdays, we have our Zoom session at 12:30, and we have our clubhouse every Wednesday at 1:30, talking about DeFi and unicorns. This making unicorns in this space. And I also want to remind you that if you should have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand at any time. We are here for you. Adrienne, Meta.
Okay, I have opinions. So, in the crypto space, pretty much our founding principle is self reliance, personal responsibility, decentralization. Most of the most successful projects are decentralized and run by the community, basically. So here you have a major player that already has world dominance in social, and they want to control the metaverse. And then here's the nightmare that I have. I could right now basically read 3 paragraphs of my book and then press a button and have this AI basically read my entire book in my voice, with my intonations, with my affectations, my pronunciation, everything. And in the metaverse, all they have to do is dupe your outfit and your avatar, and then your voice modulation is very easy. And then all of a sudden, anybody can be you. And if Facebook is controlling the metaverse, they will then literally have the avatars of every human, not every human, 300 billion, whatever, however many people they have, a lot. And then how do we really know it's you? I mean, it's harder to deep fake a video. I mean, I've caught a few of them because of the artifacts in the video, not because of the voice. So in the metaverse, it will be easier. So that's my big thought. And then the other thing is, you'll have one centralized company that pretty much owns all of the metaverse. I just don't think that the crypto community is going to adopt that. I do believe that the mainstream is going to adopt that because they're going to make it very user friendly, and that's a lesson for traditional crypto companies who are working in the metaverse. Is you have to make it easy to onboard the users. With Facebook, it'll just be log in with your Facebook, but the problem is Facebook has this nasty tendency to ban people and deplatform people. I mean, like I mentioned before, my girlfriend got deplatformed early COVID for posting a link to 12 virtual museum tours. Now, obviously, it was an accident, but there was no appeal and no nothing, and she was banned for 30 days. So, what happens when you're in the metaverse, you're relying on your Facebook ID, and one centralized company decides that they're going to kick you out of the metaverse, and then you miss all your meetings, and you miss your concert, and you miss everything else? I think that's a danger to the technology and to the industry as a whole. But that's me.
Well, it's even worse than that. I have a good friend. His name is Paul Allen, not of the Microsoft Vulcan Ventures fame, but he started another big company called Ancestry.com, and he was one of the first applications. His company doing family trees originally on Facebook in 2007, and he sent this really harrowing letter to all of his friends on LinkedIn, not on Facebook, that said that a couple of years after they launched on Facebook, they were the number one Facebook app. They had 50% of all of the users, coming on Facebook on their app. And then there was like one out of, it was just an amazing kind of growth in the first few years. And that when they surveyed their participants, they said they joined Facebook, 40% of them, because of their app, this family tree app. And it makes sense because, Facebook became a way to stay in touch with your friends and with your family. However, 2 or 3 years into it, Facebook decided to to basically drop all the apps from this, open API system they quote unquote created. And these guys lost 98 to 99% of their traffic. And this was really the largest app on Facebook. So they had the most cloud. So this is one of the scariest propositions is in Facebook building a metaverse.
Or,
I would run
or
the other
even
way.
or even offering access to other metaverses through Facebook using your profile. That's my thing. So it's the same thing that happened to Yelp. Yelp got all of its traffic from Google, and then they got pissy at Google, and then Google shut off their traffic flow, and they're like, okay, they capitulated. So, allowing any of the FANG companies to control such a large portion of your traffic, I think is the danger, which is why I'm so hot on the sovereign ID I'm building, which then you control all of your stuff and everything. It can't be taken away from you, because that's a big deal. Like, if all of a sudden you build something that's really, really good and your traffic source says, hey, wait a minute, we're not getting compensated, even though it's a value add to that platform, they can cut it off or renegotiate or whatever, and all of a sudden your business model doesn't work. So I do believe in the decentralized method of the metaverse, and having everyone really re-embrace this whole idea of personal responsibility and self-reliance, because relying on a huge company to give you your news or everything, it allows everything to be siloed and you to be controlled without even knowing it. So that's why I'm big on crypto adoption. I want everyone to get back to sovereignty.
Scott, you've been waiting patiently. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I just, like to debate this one because I think personal responsibility doesn't work in the world. Um,
In
and
this
we're so
world,
far away, right, we're so far away from that sure, it's a nice concept and we should enforce it through places where people can opt in. But the people in my personal sphere, quite honestly, don't have all the education they need to know what personal responsibility means.
exactly.
Um,
That's what crypto's trying to do.
and actually, I don't know that it is. The crypto you're talking about is of such a small segment of people who believe in what you just said. The rest of them are all about own your wallet, mess up your government, keep your money, no banks. Like, they have the wrong tone. And if they all took the tone you had, that would be amazing. I have met nobody else who has the tone you have. And so I think we should fix the tone of more people, because Facebook has more money than everybody else. And they're going to build this faster than anybody else. And it's going to be more usable than anybody else. And they've learned from the toil of everybody else, like corporate America does. And people will choose that because it's easy. They don't have to make a decision. And if there's something else that they can choose to opt into because they get more benefit, amazing. We're not quite telling that story yet. And with the people who are on these clubhouses, like, we need to think about why this is better and talk about why it's better, not complain about why it's so bad today.
Alicia, I wanted to invite you to ask your question or make your comment. Welcome.
Hi, nice to meet you, Janet and Mariana. Adrian, wow, we go so back. So hi, I love her. So that's kind of why I came in. But I'm starting to feel the pressure to educate myself a little bit better. So I own a marketing agency, and I do a lot of traditional marketing, and then I do, branding and stuff like that. So I'm doing all the paid advertising and everything for these, 7, 8 figure businesses. And I'm thinking marketing is really going to change. And so I'm just kind of here trying to educate myself, but I would love to know your idea of, like, the first thing that you think people are going to start using for marketing. What's that going to look like when you really start marketing either a whole metaverse, or even new blockchain startups?
Okay, here's the deal with pretty much everything in cyberspace. Um, the number one issue that every project has to overcome originally is, how are you going to reach your audience, right? So once you get their attention, are you just relying on email marketing where, to be quite honest, I've declared email bankruptcy I don't know how many times. I have a couple 100,000 unread emails and no easy way to just, like, mark them all as read. So the number one play in every strategy that I design for these companies is I need to get to their phone. I need to be able to push notify them. And there's multiple ways to do that. One of them is to create an app that you can get them to download, but that is a harder bar to get them to do versus a wallet card, right? You register for your flight says add this to your wallet, you add it to your wallet, and then it push notifies the heck out of you. Awesome. You can do the same thing with pretty much any project. As long as you can get a wallet pass into their phone, which works on both iPhone and Android, you have direct communication with them. And also you can generally geolocate them, which is why when you get to the airport, it starts dinging you and telling you what gate you're at. We do this for live events, and that works really, really well. So for marketing purposes, I would start looking at wallet passes and the other thing is community, right? The way that I use NFTs is as a token gate, not just as an art collectible, but a token gate to get to that unlockable content or get to that community and things like that. It allows you to make sure that the people are, you can do it with a subscription and all of that kind of stuff and links, and we've been doing that forever. But with that token gate, you can actually, I have a movie. I'm an award-winning film producer, and I was trying to figure out how do I actually NFT a movie? Well, that's more difficult. But what I can do is NFT a still with a little clip in there that's under 50 megabytes, and then create that as a token gate to unlockable content, use Vimeo Pro, lock it to my website, and then my website actually has the entire film that they can go watch. Now, the benefit of doing it this way is Google loves sticky traffic, right? They love it when people go to your website and they don't leave. So you can embed your own OpenSea storefront onto your own URL so people can look at all of the NFTs that you have for sale there, and that's free, by the way. And you can also create a community. There are a bunch of different software platforms, or if it's a smaller community, you can use WordPress, but over 50,000, that doesn't work well at all. But if it's less than 50,000, WordPress is the easiest. But with Mintgate, you can use that as a token gate. It checks to make sure that they have the NFT or the number of creator coin tokens. And if they don't have enough, it prompts them to buy more, which is like an automatic sales tool. So if you use these things and you drive everything to your domain that you own and control, and when I say own and control, I mean you own it in Iceland on an Iceland server who's going to look at any takedown requests and tell them to F off. So you can't lose your domain or be deplatformed from your own entity. You get that Google ranking because it's, unless you do something seriously bad, Google's not going to blacklist you or de-index you. But you get that Google traffic rank, and that's really, really important because that's going to drive people natural, organic traffic to your website as well. So that's why I put these communities on domains that we own rather than on third-party domains, because then all of the marketing efforts that you're doing are driving to something that you own and control.
Yeah, that was fantastic, Adrian. I mean, a lot of what you said, obviously, like, that's what I do. There's certain things I think about marketing that they just don't change. And it's funny because not everything needs innovation, right? Like, you definitely want to have it, but some things, it's just this is the way that you layer on, um, and it works. And so you start there. I think where I'm really trying to understand is more of the mindset of creator economy and NFTs and what this community is trying to get, or what they feel the benefits are, or more importantly, what makes someone kind of on the edge of not wanting to get into that space, because those are the people that I imagine that I would really be prospecting to, completely different than anything we're retargeting, but really kind of prospecting to an audience that doesn't quite understand it.
Yeah, getting
What's that
getting a
position?
meta mask is going to be, that's right there. I've never bought a crypto kitty. Why? Because for the first, I don't know how many years, I kept trying to do everything in MetaMask and it just made me crazy. And because in MetaMask way back when, you couldn't actually buy ETH, and I couldn't figure out how to, and I had ETH, but it was on my Trezor. So I couldn't figure any, it just made me crazy, and I'm an OG. So your biggest hurdle is to teach them first, what is a wallet? How do you use a wallet? What are RPC networks? That would be like the Ethereum network, the Polygon network, the Binance Smart Chain. How do you get those into your MetaMask? Those are going to be the questions that you have to ask. Number one, is your client capable of understanding that? Number two, is their audience capable? If they're not, then you got to start further back. And then that's when, you know how we have like cred reward points in WordPress for activities? That's when you would go with a play to earn strategy, because people will do just about anything to get free money. And they will learn. They will go through the learning process in order to get enough tokens in order to do something that they want to do if they can do it for free. They will actually go through that whole learning process.
Okay,
I'm
so
gonna
let's
give
look
an
at
even.
okay,
Sorry.
let's just look at a
Mariana first, and then
30,000. Yeah,
Carlos. Yeah, go
let's
ahead.
look at a 30,000, feet view of this, right? So we're not looking at it in a tactical way, but just you're running a marketing agency. And what do you need to think about in the next, 3 months to the next 5 years to successfully service your clients, get new clients, and participate in this kind of new format of marketing, right? There are several principles that I would look at that you kind of have to master. And I think Adrian mentioned all of them in a tactical way. So a lot of the suggestions are there, what they could actually do. But the most important principle of marketing that's changed is that the consumer is no longer being sold to, but they're participating in selling to themselves inside a decentralized economy where they have piece of that economy. That's a fundamental shift in marketing that was not here before, I would say even 6 months ago. And as you approach companies, you have to figure out your integrated marketing, go to market strategy with all the different marketing components. You're still going to have email marketing, and you're going to have social media marketing, and you're going to have PR, and earned media, and et cetera, et cetera. And but the bottom line is going to be your consumer, your end point of marketing too, is no longer participating in the same way. So you would have to rethink all of the components of your marketing plan to satisfy that participant in the economy. I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of where I'm seeing, which is why I'm like, okay, I need to at least educate myself, because whether or not I'm tapping into that side of marketing, I know that I need to be aware, because it's going to isolate the clients that I can serve if I don't. So I'm here getting educated right now.
Yeah, I think there's also a chicken and egg thing going on here. I mean, I think in some cases the community comes first, and you build the community, and then you create the product that they desire. But I think in other cases, and I think Carlos can speak to this, you have brands that are already deeply loved and deeply collected, and you add NFT as a way to take a group of people that already has an interest in this particular thing, and you share that with them. So I think sometimes it's not entirely clear if you have a community already with your product that is primed to participate in this way, and if your product really lends itself to that sort of collection or not. I think that sort of chicken and egg question is critical. Carlos, did you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I was just gonna quickly mention, it's just really knowing what agents, what um, company you're going to be going after. Perfect example is if you're going after a nonprofit and you're working in that agency, you're probably going to want to look after like social type NFTs. And if you're looking at foundations or museums, that would be another, use there. But if you're going to be using something like a promotional tactic for marketing, for example, to launch a business, obviously you'd probably want to create a unique NFT. And then, of course, simplicity would be key there. And what I mean by simplicity is basically making it so that it's a system that people can purchase the NFT very easy. And I've seen a lot of success, for example, with NBA Top Shot. That's one of the ones that I first recommend to people because you can just go in there and buy with your credit card, or you can use cryptocurrency. So it gives you an either or option. So it kind of gives a person a good way to onboard first, and it's a pretty cheap price point. So there is also the women's league there. So if you're female power, you can also do the WNBA. So that being said, just think about different aspects like that as you're thinking about the type of NFTs and the companies that you're approaching. Make sure that if it's a nonprofit, you're looking more into, cultural society building, different NFTs that basically might have some sort of tie into, giving back to the rainforest or, those kind of things tend to be more successful and pretty easy to create. So there are different options as you're looking at your different companies.
Let me ask you guys this. So, what do you think about NFTs with sweepstakes? So I won't say what it is, but I have a client, for example, that gives away $100,000 prize through actual sweepstakes, right? So that it's all legal and they're completely in compliance. But I think, perhaps next year, if they do something similar, it would be interesting to add this type of a component to have NFTs as additional entries.
Okay, I would make sure that you do it on Polygon or Binance or some other thing that doesn't have gas, because one of the laws for sweepstakes is that you have to allow that they have a way to enter for free. So it can't require a purchase, because that's just a federal law. So there's always, if you look in the little fine point, 2-point font at the very bottom, it's like, for a free entry, send a self-addressed envelope to this or whatever. A way for them to enter for free to be legally compliant with sweepstakes. And with NFTs, you're always going to have a little overhead with gas. So definitely don't do it on Ethereum, because that could be a couple $100.
I was curious too if Scott had thoughts about this, because I've been trying now for many months to get a really clear answer about sweepstakes and giveaways and NFTs, and the legal hoops that you have to jump through to set up a sweepstakes for a company are already really prohibitive. And I'm wondering if the law is really clear yet about NFTs and giveaways. In terms of, if you're giving away a couple NFTs to your community or to an influencer, that's one thing. But if you're a major brand, how likely are you going to end up in some sort of legal trouble because of some new regulation that happens in terms of sweepstakes and NFTs?
Oh, so such a loaded question. The whole I
Sorry.
answer, but it seems to be the case that if you give it away, aka airdrop, aka random selection from your customer list, and that shows up at your house, everybody seems to be okay with that, like generally okay with that. If you have knowingly entered a contest equaling sweepstakes, I registered with the intent to win something randomly selected, then there appears to be nobody cares except for the tax implications. Because if you know you're going to win $1 million and you know it's worth $1 million, then you have to pay the tax, depending on where you live, of course. I'm an American. If you give somebody $1 million NFT and they never sell it, then it's not taxed unless you live in
They changed the
California
law.
and you can claim it's part of their employment. I don't know. Like,
Well, they're
it's
looking
up
to
to them.
they're looking to change the tax structure so that you have to actually pay tax on unrealized capital gains, which would be that $1 million NFT, which would suck.
I can't imagine that will actually pass because of future market value indications. But there's two parts of this. Is it legal to do? Of course. Is it a good or bad idea for the use case? Will there be implications on the recipient? Almost assuredly. is the party that sent it responsible for that? Almost never. I think that's the pattern.
But
Well, so I would question if the party that sends it is going to be responsible, because so I'll give you an example, and Adrienne probably remembers this because she's on Twitter all the time. So FTC, they used to do these different, Twitter chats, and let's answer your questions and let's provide clarity for you influencers, right, about disclosures and all of this stuff. The problem is that everything was so, ambiguous. And so just recently, what was it, a few weeks ago, they released this list of companies and people that they're going after. And I don't know if you saw that, Adrian, but the list is like everybody. Like
It's
there's nobody
everybody.
who, it's everybody. And so, and my response to that was like, come on. Like, we saw this crap coming. Okay. We saw this coming a few years ago because people asked and asked and asked and asked, what do we do? You take Disney was a great example of the way that they were having, so they would have influencers go on these trips to, do movie premieres as an example, and the way that they tried to disclose was a little bit um it was a little
Very
bit different,
ambiguous. I
but
mean, how many TV shows did we launch? We launched Scorpion, for crying out loud. How many weeks did we tweet chat Scorpion? I mean, this was literally a job. We
yeah,
watched TV for a living and then live chatted it, live tweet chatted. Same thing with the Oscars. I mean, Vanity Fair brought us to the Oscars.
it's
How many?
crazy.
Like 8 times. I did every 26 award shows a year. That's a lot of dresses. So yeah, and then the FTC letter. I actually just read that the other day. I watched I looked at the template.
It's
Dear
insane.
influencer, here's this. Here was your tweet. Here's
Yeah.
the link to the tweet. This was not disclosed. Da 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 da. And I'm like, how many of those am I gonna get?
Right, and so that's where I'm thinking too, where I'm a little scared of this space in that sense, because it's really unethical what's happening, right? Because what they're doing is they're not providing clarity, and they're not providing these very clear guidelines, and they're kind of telling you, well, here it's like if you read the Bible and you said, okay, well, all I have to do is, not break these 10 commandments. And that's how the FTC tried to be like, we're God, we want you to live in our way, and here's 10 commandments, but that's really all we can tell you. They didn't give you the Bible, right? Not even like you can research this yourself and figure out the answers to life and how to run your business. It was, here's the 10 commandments, don't break that. We're going to be completely ambiguous. And now, and I forget what it was, the fee that they're going to be charging. Is it like 47,000 or something crazy? I mean, the amount of money that they're trying to get right now from everybody is insane. And so that's where I kind of see something like this, uh NFT, or especially if you were to mix it in with sweepstakes, even though it's interesting, I could see them doing this way down the line, even though they never provided any clarity.
Okay, I hear you. I've been in the crypto space for many, many years now, and I felt the same way about 2017 and 18 and all the ICOs, especially being in the US. I felt, oh my God, these utility tokens, it's all going to be sort of litigated, a back end once everybody launches, et cetera, et cetera. But the issue that's happening now is a little bit different, with NFTs, with DeFi, with DAOs, and with this whole world shifting into crypto. Just everyone is kind of going in this direction. It's not just that little group of people that was sort of the pioneers like yourself and Adrian and many of the people on this call. It's not just the pioneers that are kind of blazing the trails. Now the world's blazing the trails. So the regulation will have to be somewhat more reasonable going forward to kind of keep the world order going forward. It's not going to be as easy to find everybody who's going to be breaking some aforementioned law. So there's just too much technology being developed. The speed, the acceleration, and the proliferation of deals that have NFTs and they also have tokens, right? Is so many of them, and they also have staking mechanisms, and they all have loaning mechanisms and yield farming. Almost every company that has some success is now embracing everything in the space. So it's going to be very hard to kind of regulate that with that letter that you're describing, that they sent to influencers today. That's going to be hard to do.
All
Or
all
every time.
reasons why it's so
This
important.
wasn't influencers though. This was like every freaking company. I don't know how many. I mean, name a company, they're on this list. So it
Yes.
wasn't just the influencers. It was like
Yeah.
all the companies.
Yeah, it's
No,
going to be like that.
and yeah,
Worse.
and this is a proof positive that you guys need to tune in every week, because there's a lot to talk about. Mariana, can you tell them when they can tune in, because we are almost out of time.
Thanks for reminding me, Jeanette. I was deep in this conversation. Thank you, everyone. It was really, really fun for me today. Yeah, we have these events every Tuesday from 10 to 11. And that's literally ask us any question. Thank you, Alicia, for your questions. They were awesome. And please, join us next week and do the same. We also have How to Create Unicorns, where we focus more on launching new ventures, and that's on Wednesdays. 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. also in the clubhouse. And then every other Wednesday, we also do a Zoom presentation with a bunch of top tier companies in the space, in the DeFi, NFTs, DAO spaces, as well as investors in the space, and as well as larger companies, some of the enterprise space that Scott's talking about trying to onboard in. So join us for all of those. And it's infiom.com is our website. You can sign up for our newsletter. Infiom is spelled like infinity and om, INIOM.com, infiom.com. And so we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 1:30. Thanks, everyone. Great job, Jeanette, and great job, panel.
Thank you,
And
Thank you. Bye, all.
everyone.
And if you haven't already joined the club, press that little green Monopoly house at the top and make sure that you hit that always button so that you know when we are on.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thanks, Adrian. Bye.
Bye, everyone.